You don't know. You don't know what he is. He could be like Job, sitting in that dump, scraping boils with a piece of broken pottery, and you could be one of his friends that sat and looked at him for a week, saying, without saying a word, and then saying, you must be a great sinner, because look at you. We look at man differently than God looks at man, and I think that that's what Paul's trying to get across. Sorry if I stopping you from getting through the book of Romans, but sometimes you need to just drive a peg right there and say, wait a minute. Here's the way God looks at us, and he doesn't look at us the way men look at us.
Yeah,
you're tall, you're short, you're bald, you got lots of hair, chain whiskers, whatever. God doesn't look at you that way. He doesn't look at women that way. Now we're taught that women are circumcised just like men are, of the heart. It's a different concept. We're in a different kingdom than that old kingdom.
Yeah.
Christ looked at us, hey, they're all lost. I could wipe out the world if I wanted to, but I'm going to go ahead and suffer a terrible death just to save you. And not just me, not just you, but everybody. That's my goal. And that should be our goal.
Yeah, well, I'm with you on I've said many times from the pulpit, show me one time where you can find in the Bible outside of Song of Solomon, because Solomon does a good job just about describing every part of her. Find me one other place where you can tell anybody's skin color, because it's never been about that with God. 100%. 100%. Shad?
What divides us now is politics.
Politics.
Politics divides us more and creates more hate between a massive amount of people than anything at this point. And it did back in the biblical days too. Politics has always been a big divider of people.
What? Yes. But that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you said what divides us today.
Yeah, what?
That's what divides us today.
What divides us, if Paul was writing to us at North Brevard, and it was the letter to North Brevard, do you think politics is such a big deal that it's dividing this church?
No.
I don't think it is either.
Are you talking about our levels of Christianity?
Like our growth?
Our growth?
Like our maturity?
Level of faith and maturity?
No, I don't think that's it either, actually. I don't think that's it either, but I do think it's levels of how many years you've been alive. I think you have different cultures based on your age. And I think the clash of culture comes between age groups. And I think there's a reality to that. I think I could talk about, for example, what might be expected by the average person of this age and above versus what might be expected of the average person of this age and below. And I bet you would find that there are very different answers to those questions. I'm not going to get into that because it's very divisive. But there's a reality to the fact that we have a culture clash, and this is something everybody deals with. It's not the same as what they were dealing with in Romans, where you have literally the Jews and you have all the Gentiles, and now all those people who practice all them other practices, they get to come in. All the people that we were like, no, now they get to come in. But you have a difference in culture. For example, the way you treated me in the youth class 20-something years ago, and the way you treat a kid in the youth class today, very different. Very different. The things that you should talk about today versus the things that you should have talked about yesterday are very different. The expectations are very different. And there's a reality to that. When I said to everybody, and I'll tell you this too, because I wanted to, I'm using this as a chance to kind of catch up a little bit. Because sometimes when I speak, there's a lot going on in my head, and I say the important stuff, but there's a lot more I could say, which is why you always get out late. And I still cut a lot of it out, I'm going to be honest. But there is truth to this. I always say to the adults, look at the young people. All right? And I had somebody say to me, you know, Matt, that's not very fair. You act like we're the only ones that can reach out. You know, that's true. That's true. The young people can reach out too. But in your wisdom and your life experience, how often does it happen to where the young person reaches out to the older person before the older person ever reaches out to the young person? You see, here's my reality that I live in. I live in a place where I know the majority, at least I know and I feel like I have a good relationship with the majority of the adults and all the kids. But I don't feel like there's very many other people in this church that are like me. Is that wrong to say? So, with that being said, I want to finish that, because that's the part I was like, I'm not trying to offend a bunch of people by saying it. Although if I step on your toes a little bit, praise God, we all need to have our toes stepped on every now and then. But in my experience, those kids are just waiting. Think about your own life, especially those of you who are raised in church young. Think about your own life. They're just waiting for somebody to come and show some interest, and they will be coming to check on you probably all the time after that. Hey, how you doing, so-and-so? Thank you so much for talking to me. Thanks for taking me out for coffee. Thanks for giving me some advice. You know, I took your advice and it worked. And then the relationship begins to grow. But you can't let the clash of culture stop you. Trust me, I know. Those of you who are 60 and above, the kids are way different than you were when you were kids. They're way different. And you know what? When you were kids, the 60-year-olds in your church were thinking, these kids are way different than us. It's a reality. It's always going to be that way. Right now, just like Shad was saying, we live in a very polarizing time, even from a political perspective. Have you talked to young people about their politics? Maybe you shouldn't. But there's always going to be difference in culture. No matter what we do, no matter what we emphasize, no matter what we focus on, there's always going to be difference in culture. To me, that's your biggest culture clash right now that I've seen in my 40 years of life, 41 years of life, is in the youth culture and the adult culture in the church. And to me, the reason why I bring this up, the reason why I sit on it for a minute, the reason why I make y'all struggle with me in this is because the thing I've heard for the last 25 years, the thing I've seen in my entire ministry, not just here, the thing that me and my minister friends in my peer group that are about my age, that have spent 20 years in youth ministry and all moving into the pulpit positions now, what are we talking about? Well, the answer is really to us very clear about why at somewhere around 18 to 22, we start losing our kids. Because they graduate out of youth programs where the youth minister has been their guy and checked up on them and made sure. And then the youth minister has to still worry about the kids in his youth program. There is nothing for the college and young adults, and the adults aren't taking it upon themselves to come in and be mentors and build relationships, and the kids have nobody. And they went from a time where they were surrounded and had a group and everything to a place where they're coming to church. They have nobody. And I just want you to think about when you were young and that first older person came to you and invested in you. Can you name their name? Can you name their names? I can. I'm 41. I can name the names of people that started talking to me when I was 8, when I was 10, when I was 12. And you know what? To me, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm in the position that I'm in. Because people weren't afraid to invest in me. And not only that, but I really appreciated it. It really changed things in my life, like quicker than maybe any other things ever did in my walk. So I just wanted a chance to explain that a little bit. Rob, you have 30 seconds.
Can't do it.
William, we're skipping you, Rob. I'm just kidding. We'll come back to you in a second.
You know, I think when you look at those who are strong and those who are weak, we define that about age, how many years in the Lord you have, and also the position you have in the Lord. I want to say a lot of times I have experienced when we have a family. Kind of like a chat line, and I used to give my family scriptures every day. And when I became sick, you know, it didn't stop. My son Bill, he gives us scriptures every day, and my wife read it to me every morning. So look at the scripture Bill came up with. What I'm trying to say is, sometimes we live in a generation that is almost like an illusion, is not really looking at what God set up for us. You know, Jesus said, "Don't suffer not the kids to come to me," and it's almost like we gotta step back, and maybe in some cases we're the weak and they're the strong. I remember sitting in your class one day and just listening, observing, and you know what, sometimes we look at people in their age and say, you know, what's going to become of us? They got a long way to go. They're not. But if you sit down and listen, you might say, well, gee, they are spiritual. You know, they are growing in the Lord, and you can learn something, and they can help build you up. So, you know, you think about the confrontation with Peter and Paul when it comes to him, Peter going to the, when the Jews came, Peter went to their side, and you would say, well, Peter is the strong and Paul is the weak. But when you look at it, hey, maybe that's not how God has things. There's a time that we who consider ourselves strong can learn. I'm sorry, Rob. I went over his time.
Yeah, that was longer than 30 seconds. Rob, you're on the clock.
Okay. When most of us here are over our teen years.
Yeah.
Some of us are over our 60s. Some of us are 70s, 80s. So we look at life a little differently than we did when we were young. Everybody needs help. You're not an island standing there by yourself. When you're old, I fight loneliness because I'm all alone. I need encouragement. Everybody in here needs encouragement. Elders need encouragement. Somebody needs to pat them on the back if they're doing a good job. If they're not, they need to be addressed as, you know, what's going on here. But every person is in a different place, but we've all got the same common problems. Kids today have the same problems kids 100 years ago had, or 1,000 years ago had, or 10,000, well, not 10,000, but a couple thousand years ago. That there's no temptation that's overtaken you, but it's such as common to man. They still have the same lust of the flesh, the same doubting thoughts about God, everything. The thing that helps them is having that mentor to come around and make sure that they're going to be okay. And if you're looking around for somebody to help, just look right here. There's people right here that need help. Somebody to come by and say, hi, how you doing today? Show an interest, because God showed a real interest in you. That's what he's trying to say is, if I sent my son here to die for you, that's how much I loved you. Couldn't I take a few minutes out of my time to go check on somebody? I don't have to visit everybody, but I should go check on somebody. And I should be looking around for how can I be used? How can I best serve God? And you know, I go through that all the time. Sometimes I think, well, I want it to go both ways. I want people to encourage me, and I want to encourage them. But sometimes I want more encouragement, and I want to do less encouraging.
Yeah.
And people kind of get an idea that what's the bare bones minimum, and I'm over my time, I repent, but what's the bare bones minimum I can do to serve the Lord? It's not that way. That's not the job interview question you want to answer. It's what is the most I can do to serve the Lord. Paul answered that question with his life. Jesus with his life. What about me? Okay, I'm done for the night.
Shaq.
I see that, the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, like somebody said that, kids are like aliens, even they said it through all those times. But now we have a phone and electronics where there's human absence completely out of their lives, basically. So I don't think it's anywhere near like it was back then.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And, we're sitting here talking about kids and how they're lost and everything. Where's the parents? Is it the kids or is it the parents? So I didn't have it easy growing up. My dad drug me out of bed at 6 o'clock on Saturdays to go work for him for free so he can make money, So I don't want my kids to have that life. But then I go, well, I turned out okay. So I'm going to the bedroom and getting up at 6 o'clock. You know what I mean? I think it's just a me society for adults and kids both. They get instant gratification from what they hold in their hand, and the parents get peace and quiet because they're gone.
Well, I think that's a big part of actually what I'm talking about is that we've had this separation in our culture between the younger and the older. I think you can talk about the new problems based on the new innovations of the world, but I think it's been a problem forever. That's what I think. And anyway, I wanted to bring that up. I know that's not really 100% where we're at here in the scriptures, but I did want to bring that up because I really want you guys to consider the fact of what this church would look like if age did not matter at all. If the young had relationships with the old and vice versa. If it was really like that incorporated, that together, that unified, how different would it be? Wanda, putting you on the spot. This is the last thing. Are we recording now? Wanda's going to talk. You need to put this on the live stream. Wanda, I invited you on a random night, didn't I, to go with us to go eat. Were you nervous?
No, my granddaughter wanted me to come and I went.
Yes, your granddaughter did want you to come, which I was a little bit shocked about. You must be a good grandma. Huh? Oh, you're the best. Well, I can tell you that I think some of the kids were like, what is Wanda doing getting on the bus? I said, she wants to come and have a good time with us tonight. We're just going to dinner. Did they talk to you? Well, we did get spread out. It was easy, wasn't it? Yeah, it was nice. And whenever you want. And the invitation's open for anybody, and I'm serious about that. This is not a pressure campaign. All right? But the church I grew up in is just right down the road, Rockledge, Church of Christ. We had there was a very special, I don't think you can go get it. I don't think if you went there today it would be the same. But there was a time where there was a lot of special people in the same place. And we had a big youth group. We had a lot of parental support and a lot of mentoring going on. And that church not just experienced growth in number like they have never experienced since then at that time, but I know there's a lot of people I still know in the community that talk about that time. What if a church could do that for a long time? Not just man, you remember when it was like this? What if that's just who we were? How different would it be? How quickly would you see, not like radical change, like, oh, everything's going to be different when you show up on Sunday morning, but atmospheric change, cultural change, where young people are actually looking. Could you imagine going to a church where the young people are actually looking for advice from the older people? you imagine being a part of anything where young people are looking for advice from the older people? That would be, it would be amazing. That's really what it would be. You know where they're getting their advice from? You already said it. They're looking at, have you seen influencers? Is that who you want your kids to get advice from?
No, I prefer TikTok.
TikTok is not the answer. The Bible is the answer at the end of the day. And y'all have more knowledge about that than probably anybody else they can tap into. Go ahead, Gary.
I've gotten more out of small group than I have anything. Why don't you try a mixed age small group?
It's a good idea. Well, what we're doing right now, and we're way over, but what we're doing right now is we're doing our best to integrate those young adults right now. So we've started where we've moved them out of the youth class. They've got their own class right now, but the ultimate plan really is not for them to have their own class, but to go and be in class with y'all and integrate. And then once that happens, I really hope y'all surround them with love and encouragement and opportunity to have a relationship. And I bet you will keep them.
Yeah, something that Gary's talking about was small group, but we have, our small group runs from 85 down to 18. And that 18-year-old will be sitting over on the couch talking to that 85-year-old.
What's wrong, Gary?
Yeah, and it happens because we are together. You can't do it on Sunday morning.
Right.
You have to have...
Well, you can't only do it on Sunday morning. You
Well,
can certainly do it on
can
Sunday
say-
morning too.
You know, it's...
I know what you're saying.
I go out of my way to speak to people, but I can only have a small interaction on Sunday morning with the kids.
Yeah, no,
And
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're not going to build the relationship in a 5-minute conversation.
Yes.
Yes.
Or Sunday morning, you know, you don't usually even have that much time.
You're right.
Uh,
You're right.
it's just, you can't build a relationship with anybody in the congregation in that amount of time on a Sunday morning. You've got to have other opportunities.
Amen.
If we're strangers, it's weird.
Yeah.
We got to get to know each other.
Amen.
We got to do that this month.
That's what I'm talking about. Shad, by the way, I want it to be noted, I stopped talking before the time was out. Go ahead, Shad.
Something because of me, blame it on me. I got a question for you. Why did you go to that church? Was it something that drew you there as a child, or was it your dad going, this is the church we're going to?
My dad said this is where we're going.
Right. That doesn't really happen much anymore. Usually the children pick out the church from either pool tables, goodies, a basketball court, you know what I mean? I mean, honestly,
There is truth to that.
you know, the band, the Starbucks inside the church, I mean, that's,
I'm trying to get us some coffee bar.
I'm just saying, so things are different. So you're comparing apples to oranges kind of, you know, to what you used to know as the church.
Yeah.
Dad would drag you up and that's where you'd go to church.
Yeah.
But I think the kids pick out a lot nowadays.
Well, I know the parents are definitely thinking more about that.
Yeah.
And if their kids are going to enjoy it, fit in, I know that for sure. Go ahead, Rob. Last thing, period.
I think sometimes we need to have a meeting together where we're more like a AA meeting, where everybody sits around and has a chance to speak. Like, there's been a lot of people talk here, and it kind of lets you know where they're at. If you just sit all the time and you never hear from them, you really don't know what's going on up there. Are they getting what you're talking about? And never get in such a hurry that you breeze through something and not really know who the audience is thinking about. And I think sometimes, you know, okay, you know, my name's Robert McKenzie. I'm a sinner. I've done this. You know, I'm here for help, and here's my life. Everybody has a chance to speak in that situation. Sometimes it can lead to all kinds of good things as long as it's controlled.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that, you know, organized Bible studies, sometimes you don't really know if people are getting what you're saying.
Yeah.
Or they're in agreement with, or you just like them to hear yourself talk like maybe I did.
Yeah. Well, I will say one of the things you've all said, and I'll wrap up with this, is something that I can at least speak for myself. Me and the elders have been talking about since my transition, which is creating as much opportunity as we can for you guys to develop and have strong relationship with one another. Don't let the culture clash stop you from trying to reach out as well, though. That's all. Thank you very much. Next week, we'll get through the end of Romans 16, and I'm not letting Rob say a word. No, I'm just kidding.